With us is News Nation political contributor Denise Gitsham. Always great to see you, Denise. Good morning.
Good morning, Hannah. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. Let's talk about those big priorities he laid out in that interview. What priorities do you see him putting the most effort in first?
Well, based on his Time interview, it sounds like he's going to be focused on making sure his base knows that he's still with them, and that's with the J6 pardons. He said he'd do it in the first hour. At another point in the interview, he said he'd do it in the first 9 minutes. So I know that's going to be, a priority. I think the other thing that we know for certain, and this is not out of the blue, he's been talking about it all the campaign, is he's going to be tackling immigration with executive orders, specifically by undoing the things that Biden did and doing things that he wants to make sure are done on the policy of securing our borders and these mass deportations that he's also been campaigning about and talks about all the time. And of course, he's got to do something on inflation, something to slash regulations, because he talks about the systemic issues that contribute to high prices. So slashing regulations that keep our energy prices high is probably going to be high on his list.
Let's talk about the economy. We know Trump campaigned on the economy and people's frustrations. When we go to the grocery store, we see those high prices.
Yeah.
He is now acknowledging it's going to be very hard to bring those prices down. I want to hear your take on whether or not he can fulfill that campaign promise, especially considering he campaigned on the economy and those grocery prices, bringing those prices down very heavily.
People are counting on him to do the thing that he campaigned on the most, right? It was to fix the economy, but primarily, not just the economy, because we talk about that. Those are all policies and pie-in-the-sky ideas. They want things that actually affect them at their pocketbook level, right? They want to be able to afford groceries and gas, not have to think about making trade-offs. And so I think the way that President Trump is approaching it is honest, in the sense that he's saying, look, these are systemic contributions, right? The supply chain, the cost of energy prices. These are things that we don't necessarily think of when we go to the grocery store and we're shocked at the price of something. We don't know all that goes into it. So what he's saying is factual. It is hard to bring down prices, but there's a little bit of PR in there as well. He doesn't want people to think that everything is so easy for him to do. He wants to get a lot of credit for it at the end as well. So I think he's working with the free market as opposed to against the free market by aligning all the incentives and ensuring that when we have a fix for the economy, it's going to actually last.
Let's get to those January 6th pardons. He says this will happen in the first hour. Your thoughts on this? Why is this such a high priority for him?
You know, one thing we've seen about President Trump more than anything is that when people are loyal to him, he is loyal to them. I mean, you've seen it with some of his controversial cabinet picks. I mean, he sticks by his people by and large. And so one of the things that he made a big case for was really PRing why, in advance, why he's going to be issuing these pardons and how he's going to be doing them. I haven't been following a lot of that, so it was interesting to read in that interview that he's going to take the nonviolent offenders, people who've been convicted of J6 offenses, and he's going to look at them, and he's probably going to do a blanket pardon for anyone who didn't cause any bodily harm. Those who were violent, he's going to look at a case-by-case basis. So he's at least speaking to the American people and saying, I'm not just going to do this willy-nilly. I am going to do it, but it's not going to be something that is going to be applied equally to everyone. And I think that when he makes the case about Chaz and all the things that happened during COVID, people can see the bigger context of why he's doing what he does. And when he says it's unfair that they were imprisoned, but the people who caused a lot of harm during the COVID riots and the George Floyd riots weren't imprisoned, I think that people see that this makes a lot more sense in his mind.
Denise, let's go back to the border. Trump talked at length about his plans for mass deportations in this interview, saying he will, quote, maximize the law to the fullest extent. How will he meet this promise given the resources that will be required, the resources, the money, the people, the boots on the ground?
I don't think that anyone is in doubt about what President Trump's priority is in regards to the border and securing it immediately. I think this is the emotional issue that he really won on. Everyone felt strongly about the economy, and that was probably the top motivating issue. But this was a very close second for all Americans. From what I understand, those on the Hill are already, all of his allies on the Hill have already been talking about what they're going to do to present him with a comprehensive immigration border security package from the moment he steps in the office, the moment they're sworn in, the beginning of January. They're going to be ready to go. And so I believe that because this is such a high priority for President Trump, he's going to leverage every resource necessary. You know, Doge be damned. This is not an issue where efficiency matters. What matters to him is getting the job done. People want to see a significant shutdown at the border of illegal migration. So I don't think he's going to hold back, and I don't think any of his allies on the Hill are going to. And I think Americans are expecting him to deliver on this because it's entirely within his power to do so.
Doge be damned. All right, I am running out of time here, Denise. From what you've seen in the past few weeks, what are your thoughts on how he's approaching his second term in office?
You know, it's interesting that he still wants the love and adoration. And, you know, when you win a second term, and the way that it was done is so interesting, right? Like, he's been in the public eye now for so long. You would think that he's kind of be over the popularity contest of it. He's proven that he's won, but I felt like in reading that interview and kind of seeing some of the things he's been saying, he still wants people to know that he wants to be a popular guy. I think he wants them to understand why he's doing what he's doing. And so I've just found it really interesting to hear him talk about things that are very common sense and say them in a very plain way, because he wants to keep the buy-in so that he can get his initiatives done. I think it's really smart, and I think he's really living out the principles in his book, The Art of the Deal.
I know, certainly an insightful interview. He addressed a lot of questions that Americans had. Denise Gitsham, always a pleasure. Thank you.